It was a quiet night in a small town surrounded by forests and hills. Liam, a 25-year-old mechanic, was walking home after work. The stars were shining above, and the wind felt cold on his face. He lived alone, and his house was far from the main road. He liked the silence, the peace, the space. But that night, something strange broke the silence. A flash of green light crossed the sky like lightning. It wasn't a plane, and it wasn't a shooting star. It was faster, brighter, and fell behind the trees. Then came a loud crash like metal breaking and trees falling. Liam froze for a moment, staring at the sky. His heart started beating faster. What the hell was that? He whispered. He looked at the forest near his house. Something inside him said, "Don't go." But curiosity was stronger. He grabbed a flashlight from his porch and walked toward the sound. The forest was dark and quiet, but he followed the broken branches and burnt leaves. Smoke was in the air, and the ground felt hot in some places. Then he saw it. A small crater had formed in the ground. At the center, something metallic was half buried. It looked like a pod or a small spaceship. The surface was silver and had strange symbols glowing in blue. Liam's eyes widened. "This is not from Earth," he said to himself as he stepped closer. He heard a sound, a soft groan like someone in pain. He raised his flashlight and pointed it near the broken part of the ship. That's when he saw her. A woman, at least she looked like a woman, was lying on the ground. Her skin was pale blue. Her hair was silver, and her eyes were closed. She wore a strange suit that was torn and burned in some places. Her body was shaking, and she looked cold and hurt. She didn't move, but she was breathing slowly. Liam didn't know what to do. He had never seen anything like this before. But something told him she was not dangerous. He looked around, half expecting the military to show up or aliens to attack. But nothing happened. It was just him and her. She looked helpless, like a lost child in the middle of a storm. Liam stepped closer and bent down. "Hey, can you hear me?" he said softly. She opened her eyes. Her eyes glowed with a soft violet light. She looked at him with fear and confusion. Then, slowly, she tried to sit up but fell back, weak and shaking. Liam didn't know if she understood him, but he said, "I won't hurt you, okay? You need help." She blinked slowly, then nodded, just once. Liam made a choice right then. He couldn't leave her here, not in the cold, not in the dark. He gently lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, and warm, almost too warm. She rested her head against his shoulder, too weak to speak. The ship behind them stayed silent, broken and forgotten. He walked back to his house quickly, avoiding the road. If anyone saw him now, they would think he was crazy at home. He placed her on the couch. She looked around, her glowing eyes scanning the room. He gave her a blanket and some water. She didn't drink much, but she tried. Liam noticed her hands-long fingers, glowing lines under the skin. She wasn't human, not fully, but she wasn't a monster either. He sat across from her, still not sure if he was dreaming. "What are you?" he whispered. She looked at him, then touched her chest and said one word, "Kareen." Her voice was soft and strange, but clear enough to understand. Then she pointed at him. "Confused, Liam," he said, slowly. She nodded. Outside, wind grew stronger. Inside, a human and an alien looked at each other. No one else in the world knew what had just happened. But Liam could feel it. His life had changed forever, and deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. It was almost morning, but Liam hadn't slept a second. Every time he looked at the strange woman on his couch, his heart raced. An alien in his living room, wrapped in his old blanket like a scared animal. This wasn't a dream, and it definitely wasn't normal. She had come from the sky, but why? And why now? Liam sat on the floor, watching her quietly as she slept. She looked peaceful, but something about her face said she had seen war. Too much pain for someone who looked so calm. Suddenly, she opened her eyes, bright violet again, glowing softly in the dim light. She looked around like a lost child, breathing fast. Then her eyes landed on Liam, and her panic slowed. She remembered him, the human who helped her. He smiled gently and raised his hands. "It's okay, you're safe here," he said. Slowly and clearly, she blinked twice, then pointed to herself. "Kyrene." Liam nodded. "Yes, Kyrene, I remember." Then she pointed at him again. "Waiting, Liam," he said. She repeated it. "Lee." It wasn't perfect, but it was human enough to melt his fear just a little. Over the next hour, Liam tried to give her food. She didn't know what bread was, but she smelled it, tasted it, and ate like she hadn't eaten in days. He gave her water. At first she touched it like it was magic. Then she drank it all and held the cup close. Liam laughed softly. "You were starving, weren't you?" She nodded, even though she probably didn't understand all his words. But just as he was starting to relax, he noticed something strange. Kyrene was touching the table, gently pressing her fingers to the wood. Wherever her skin touched, a faint blue glow followed, like electricity running under her skin. "What are you made of?" he whispered. She heard that, and paused, then without warning, she pointed to her wrist and made a small cutting motion. No, do that," Liam said quickly, stopping her hand, but she was trying to show something. She placed her finger to the small scar on his palm, the one he got from a sharp tool last week. In just a second, her finger glowed and the scar disappeared. Liam pulled his hand back in shock. "Did you just heal me?" he said, breathless. Kyrene looked calm and said one word: "Gift." Before he could ask more, his phone buzzed. A message from his friend Jake. "Hey bro, did you hear anything weird last night? Cops say something fell near your area." Liam's eyes narrowed. The crash site. They had already started looking. He turned off the phone and pulled the curtains closed. Kyrene was now walking around slowly, her steps light and careful. She touched a plant on the shelf and smiled, as if seeing life for the first time. Liam watched her with a strange feeling. She wasn't a monster or a threat. She was someone trying to survive just like him. But something didn't make sense. Why? Was she alone? Why was her ship so small? He decided to ask, even if she didn't understand. "Why are you here? Where are the others?" Kyrene turned to him, face suddenly serious. She sat down and drew something on the table with her finger shapes and lines glowing blue. A circle, a line, a triangle. Then she placed her hand on it. Suddenly, a hologram appeared, floating in the air. Liam's mouth opened in shock. It showed a planet blue and silver, with fire around it. Ships flying, cities burning. Then it zoomed out to show Kyrene's ship escaping while others fell behind. She looked at him with sadness in her eyes and said softly, "Alone." Liam felt a cold wave inside him. She wasn't just an alien, she was a survivor. Her world had been destroyed, her people gone, and now she was here. On Earth, with no way back, Liam stood up and took a deep breath. "Okay," he said, "we'll figure this out. Kyrene, together." But just as he said that, a dark van slowed down outside his window. Two men in black suits stepped out. Looking around, one of them held a strange device that beeped loudly as they got closer to the house. Liam's heart dropped. "They found you," he whispered. The knock on the door wasn't loud. It was slow, calm, and dangerous. Liam froze in place, his hand still on the curtain. Outside, the black van sat silently, like a wolf waiting in the dark. Two men stood on the porch, both wearing black suits and dark glasses, even though it was still early morning. One of them knocked again, this time louder. Kyrene stood behind Liam, her eyes glowing brighter with each knock. She whispered something in her own language, and the lights in the room flickered for a second. Liam looked at her, unsure what to do. "Do they know you're here?" he asked, but Kyrene didn't answer. Instead, she moved to the kitchen and crouched behind the counter, completely silent. The knock came a third time, then a voice. "Sir, we just need to ask you a few questions about last night's sky activity." "Nothing to worry about." Liam didn't open the door. His voice was shaky, but he tried to sound normal. "I didn't see anything, just thunder and clouds." There was a pause, then footsteps, The men didn't push further, but Liam knew. They would come back. When he peeked outside again, the van was still there, just parked across the road, watching. Kayrene stood up slowly, her breathing calm but her eyes focused. She touched the wall near the door, and the paint darkened. Around her fingers, "I can feel them," she said softly, surprising Liam with the sentence. "You can, what?" he asked. She tapped her chest. "Blood remembers danger." Liam had no idea what that meant, but it didn't sound good. Later that day, he noticed something even stranger. Kayrene was changing, not in shape, but in energy. Her skin glowed faintly under the sunlight, and her touch left soft blue marks on objects. She could now speak in short sentences, learning fast from TV and Liam's voice. But it was when she passed out that he learned the truth. It happened in the evening. Just after sunset, Kayrene stood near the window, looking at the stars. Then suddenly, she fell to the ground, her body shaking. Liam ran to her, shouting her name. Her skin turned pale silver, and her veins lit up like blue fire under her skin. He didn't know what to do, but her hand grabbed his and placed it over her chest, right where her heart would be. A pulse of energy moved through him, warm, powerful, like a shock and a wave at the same time. In a flash, his mind filled with images. He saw a massive alien city, floating above clouds. He saw Kayrene as a child, laughing under twin suns. Then he saw destruction machines, explosions, her people running, and he heard one word echo in his mind: purity. Liam pulled his hand back as she gasped for breath. Her body slowly returned to normal. He helped her sit up, and she looked at him, tears in her glowing eyes. "You saw it," she whispered. Liam nodded, shocked. "What was that?" She placed a hand over her chest again. "My blood is pure," she said. "It holds memory, power, life," she explained in broken English. Her kind were created long ago by an ancient race. They were peacekeepers, healers, protectors of life. But over time, greedy forces wanted that power, wanted to use their blood for control. Her planet fell, and she was one of the last to escape. The gift inside her was not just healing, it could power machines, destroy diseases, and even give life. That's why those men were here, not to help her, but to take her. Liam stood up, pacing the room. "So your blood. It's like a key," he said. Kayrene nodded. "To the past," she said, "and to the future." He looked down at his hand, where she had touched him. A small mark glowed on his palm, blue and soft, but clear. "You marked me?" She shook her head. "You accepted me," she said. "That is rare." Just then, a flash came from outside the window. Liam peeked out and saw a drone flying past the house. It was scanning for life signs, probably for her. They were running out of time. Kayrene stood beside him, her voice steady. "They will come tonight," she said, not to ask, but to take. Liam knew she was right. This was no longer about hiding a secret. It was about protecting her from those who would break her, and maybe saving more than just her, maybe saving something in himself too. Rain poured from the sky like warning signals from the heavens. Thunder cracked above Liam's house, but he barely noticed. He was too busy watching Kayrene from behind the half-closed door. She stood barefoot in the living room, eyes closed, arms raised. Each raindrop that hit the windows flickered with a blue spark, like it was listening to her. She wasn't doing magic, no, she was remembering what it felt like to be free, before everything was stolen from her. Liam had a choice to make. He could run and save himself, or stay and stand against something bigger than he understood. Kayrene opened her eyes slowly and whispered, "Storm is not from sky today." He didn't understand the words at first, but when the lights flickered and the power cut out completely, he knew what she meant. Outside, across the road, the black van was gone, but another car was parked where it had been this time, unmarked, and someone was watching from inside. Liam locked the doors, shut the blinds, and pulled Kayrene into the hallway. "We need a plan," he said. "They're not giving up. Karine looked calm, but tired. No more hiding. She said, "We move." That night, they packed what little they could. Liam took a map, an old camping bag, and some canned food. Karine held a strange metal piece from her ship. It looked like a broken ring, but pulsed with a light of its own. They left through the back door, moving through trees, keeping low. Liam's car was hidden a few blocks away, and they made it there without being seen. But when they reached the main road, Karine paused. She looked up at the sky, then turned to Liam. "I saw a place," she said, "in your memory, a quiet place." Liam knew what she meant, the cabin, deep in the woods where he used to go with his grandfather. No one else knew about it, not even his friends. It was the perfect place to hide. They drove all night, staying off the main roads, avoiding cameras, avoiding lights, but trust, Liam soon learned, was a fragile thing. And trouble doesn't always wear a black suit. Sometimes it wears the face of someone you've known for years. When they reached the town near the forest, Liam stopped at a small gas station. Karine stayed in the car, hidden under a blanket. He went inside to grab supplies, but didn't see the man near the security camera watching closely. That man was Jake, Liam's best friend. Jake had been worried about him for days. No calls, no texts, nothing. So he started looking, and now he had found him. But Jake wasn't alone. His phone rang quietly, and a voice said, "Don't approach him, just keep eyes, we'll handle the rest." When Liam returned to the car, he saw a flash of movement in the mirror. A black SUV had turned down the street, slowly approaching. "Drive," Karine said firmly, and Liam didn't ask why. He turned the key and pushed the car to its limit. Behind them, the SUV gave chase. Karine placed her hand on the dashboard, and suddenly the engine roared louder, faster. The speed wasn't natural, not for this old car. They lost the SUV near the forest edge, just before the turn to the cabin, inside the woods. The cabin stood just as Liam remembered, dusty, broken, but hidden. They lit no fire, used no lights, but they had a roof, and for now, that was enough. Karine sat near the old fireplace, holding the metal ring close. "What is that thing?" Liam asked. She looked at him, her voice soft. "A piece of my home," she said. "It speaks when we are close to others, others like you." She nodded, then placed the ring on the wooden floor. A soft hum filled the room, and tiny blue lines began to spread out from it like veins. "It is calling," she said. "Someone might hear." Liam didn't know whether to feel hopeful or terrified. If someone heard the signal, it could be her people or her enemies. He sat beside her, tired, confused, and full of questions. "You trusted me too fast," he said. "Why?" Karine looked at him for a long moment. "Because when I was falling, I looked into your planet, and I saw a heart that did not turn away." He didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded. But outside, deep in the trees, someone else had arrived. A small red dot blinked near the cabin roof. A camera, placed by a drone. They had found them again. The wind howled through the trees like it was warning them to run. The forest had turned cold, too cold for late summer. Liam opened his eyes to silence, but something felt wrong. Karine wasn't next to him. He jumped up and looked around. The dark cabin, heart pounding, she was gone but not far. He found her standing barefoot in the wet grass, her silver hair glowing faintly under the moonlight. She stood completely still, hands raised, eyes shut, as if listening to something only she could hear. "What are you doing?" Liam whispered, stepping beside her. She turned slowly, her voice barely a breath. "They're coming again." Before he could ask who, the ring she had placed on the cabin floor started glowing brighter. Lines of light spread outward, dancing on the wooden floor like roots searching for life. The air grew warmer, heavier. Then boom! A small explosion shook the ground outside, followed by red lights cutting through the trees. "Drones?" Liam grabbed Karine's hand, and they ran, but this time she wasn't running blindly. She led him deeper into the woods, through a hidden path Liam didn't even know existed. "How do you know where to go?" he asked, breathless. "This planet speaks," she said. "I listen." He didn't question it. He just followed her. Minutes later, they reached a clearing. In the center stood something half buried beneath moss and vines. It was shaped like a broken dome, covered in rust and strange symbols. Liam stared. "What is this?" Kayreen stepped forward and placed her hand on the metal surface. It lit up with blue light, and a low hum filled the air. "My ship," she said. "But not the one I came in." Liam stepped back as the dome cracked open with a hiss, revealing a hidden entrance. This was never about crash landing, was it? He asked. Kayreen turned to him, her eyes serious. "No," she said. "It was return." Inside, the hidden craft was dark, quiet, asleep. But as Kayreen walked in, lights flickered to life. Strange machines awakened, showing maps, data, and stars Liam had never seen. He stared at one of the maps. It showed Earth in red, surrounded by dark symbols. "They marked Earth," he said. "What does that mean?" Kayreen looked down. "They are coming here next." Liam felt like the air had left the room. "So this is an invasion?" "No," she said. "This is cleansing." The ship had been left here by her ancestors long ago, hidden deep beneath Earth's forests. It was meant to carry their bloodline away. Should they ever fall, now it was the only hope she had left. Kayreen sat in the pilot seat and placed both hands on a crystal panel. Her veins glowed. The ship responded, but only for a second. Then everything went dark again. "It's not enough," she whispered. "I am not full blood anymore." Liam stepped closer. "Then what do we do?" She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "We share," she said, before he could ask what that meant. She touched his forehead gently. A sharp pain shot through his body, but it faded quickly, replaced by warmth. He saw flashes of her memories again, her family, her world, her pain. Then, he saw his own memories mixing with hers. The ship lit up again, fully this time. "You are now part of me," she said. "Half of Earth, half of star." The ground shook again. Louder this time. Outside, the black-suited men had found the dome. They shouted into radios, moved closer with weapons drawn. Kayreen looked at Liam one last time. "This ship has space for two," he nodded. "Let's go." They sat side by side as the ship powered up. The ceiling above them split open, trees shaking violently. A beam of white-blue light shot into the sky. The forest lit up like a second sun had risen. The agents on the ground could only watch as the ship lifted off. Too fast, too bright, too alien to stop. Liam felt gravity disappear. Stars filled the window, and Earth grew smaller behind them. He sat back in silence, trying to understand what had just happened. Kayreen looked at him and said, "You saved me, now I save you." But as the ship passed the edge of Earth's orbit, a red alarm lit up on the dashboard. Another ship was following them, large, dark, and armed. Kayreen stared at it with cold fear in her eyes. "They followed the signal," she said. Liam looked ahead and whispered, "Then we run faster." The stars weren't peaceful anymore. They were watching, moving, chasing. Liam stood inside the alien ship, staring at the massive war cruiser that followed them through space. It was dark, cold, and 3 times their size. He had never seen anything more terrifying, and yet Kayreen didn't flinch. She looked at the red light flashing on the console and whispered, "It's them." The ship shook slightly as it entered deep space. Far beyond Earth's orbit, Kayreen activated a shield, her fingers dancing across the glowing control panel. Liam could barely keep up with what was happening. "We can't fight that thing," he said. "We won't," she replied. "We'll hide." With a quick burst of energy, their ship dove into a nearby asteroid field. The larger cruiser slowed behind, scanning, searching. Kayreen moved like someone who had done this before. But Liam couldn't stop thinking about what she said days ago, about her people, her war, and the gift inside her blood. He sat down beside her and asked the question he had been avoiding. "Are your people still alive?" She paused, then nodded slowly. "Some," she said, "but not free." She told him about a planet called Zephyr, a world once full of life. It was her people's last stronghold, now under the control of a race called the Dravari, a cruel, ancient empire that harvested planets and enslaved species. The Dravari had been hunting her kind for centuries, not just to kill them, but to take their blood, the living code that could power worlds or destroy them. Kairine showed him a star map. Their current path led straight to Zephyr. "If we reach it, I can wake them," she said. "But I can't do it alone." Liam looked at her hand glowing faintly even now. Then he looked at his own, still carrying that small blue mark from when she touched him. "Why me?" he asked. "Because your blood changed when we joined," she said. "You're not fully human anymore." He didn't know how to react. He wasn't a soldier, a scientist, or a leader. He was just a guy who fixed engines and helped a stranger. But maybe that was enough. A sudden jolt threw them forward, alarms flashing across the ship. "They've launched a pulse net," Kairine shouted. "If it hits, we fall." Liam didn't wait for instructions. He jumped into the co-pilot's chair and did what he did best, fixing broken things. The control rods were unstable, the shield generators overheating. With tools from Earth and instinct from survival, he balanced the systems just in time. The ship dodged the net and disappeared into warp. Inside the silence of warp space, Kairine looked at him differently. "Maybe you were meant for more," she said. Liam smiled weakly. "Or maybe I'm just really good at crashing into trouble." When they exited warp, a massive red planet appeared in front of them. Zephyr. Kairine stood up, her hands shaking. "It's still here," she whispered. "After all this time." But as they moved closer, they saw the truth giant towers piercing the sky, chains around the cities, and slave ships orbiting above. Her people were alive, yes, but they were not free. A distress signal came through the ship's speakers, soft, broken, and barely readable, but Kairine understood it. "It's my brother," she said, her voice cracking. "He's alive." Liam looked at the towers again. "Then we go get him." "You don't understand," she said. "If we enter, we may not come back." Liam stood and looked her in the eyes. "You saved my world, Kairine. Let me help save yours." She walked to a hidden panel near the back of the ship and pressed her palm against it. The wall opened to reveal armor, weapons, and something that looked like a second skin. Kairine handed him a suit, light, flexible, and glowing with energy. "This was made for protectors," she said. "You are one now." As he suited up, the ship moved quietly into Zephyr's shadow. They would enter through the old tunnels, the ones the Dravari forgot. No one on Earth knew where Liam had gone. But here, among stars and silence, he had found a new fight and a reason to keep fighting. As they approached the surface, Kairine reached out and took his hand, not just as a pilot, not just as a protector, but as someone who saw in him a light she thought her world had lost. "Together," she said. "Always," Liam replied, and behind them, that massive war cruiser followed. Silent, deadly, patient, because the real war was just beginning. The sky of Zephyr was not blue, it was silver, glowing, cracked like broken glass. Liam had never seen a planet so beautiful and so full of pain at the same time. Beneath that strange sky, he walked beside Kairine, his footsteps quiet, his heart loud. They were deep inside the slave towers now, dressed in armor from a forgotten time. The deeper they went, the louder the voices in the walls became, voices of the past, of her people, still calling, still waiting. Kairine stopped at a sealed door. Placing her glowing hand on the center, the wall pulsed like it was breathing, then opened slowly. Inside, dozens of her people lay asleep, frozen in stasis chambers. Some were children, some warriors, all wearing the same strange mark on their skin, the symbol of her bloodline. Liam stepped forward, eyes wide. "Are they alive?" Kairine nodded, barely holding back tears. "This was the last hope," she said. "My father hid them here before the fall. But time was short." The war cruiser had arrived above them. The Dravari were deploying units into the city, scanning for life, for energy, for her. They knew she had returned. And they wanted her power more than ever. Liam moved to the ship's console inside the chamber. Guided by memory and instinct, he found something: a system still online. A defense core connected to the planet's surface. If we can wake them, we can fight back, he said. Kayreen shook her head slowly. They need more than power, she whispered. They need a reason to rise. Then she turned to Liam, and for the first time since they met, she looked afraid. There is one way, she said. But it is not safe. Liam stepped closer. What is it? She placed her hand over his chest, where her energy had touched him before. I can bond our light, she said. Fully, forever. It will awaken them, she said. But it will also change you. Not just body, she said softly. Your soul will not be only Earth's. Liam looked around at the silent chambers, the sleeping hope of a dying world. Then he looked at her, the woman who once fell from the sky starving and afraid. Now she stood like a queen, ready to give up everything for her people. He smiled, heart steady. Then let's do it, he said. Together. She reached for him, their palms pressed, energy glowing between them like fire and water meeting. The bond began, and in that moment, Liam saw everything: her childhood, her pain, her joy, her stars. She saw his too, his lonely life, his loyalty, his quiet strength. They became one light, one soul shared across two worlds. The stasis pods began to hum, one by one. Eyes opened, bodies awakened, memories returned. Her people stood again, not as slaves, but as survivors. Kayreen stepped forward, now glowing brighter than ever. Liam stood beside her, his eyes no longer just human. A commander and his queen, reborn from ash and stardust. Above, the Dravari broke through the tower ceiling, descending like shadows, but they were too late. The chamber glowed with the united force of an ancient race, and in front of them all, Liam raised his voice. Leave this world, he said, or be buried by it. The battle that followed wasn't long. It wasn't even fair, because love, when armed with purpose, is unstoppable. Kayreen led her warriors like flame through darkness. Liam fought beside her, faster, stronger than any human had a right to be. Not just as her protector, but as her equal. The Dravari fled, broken and defeated. Their ship vanished into the stars, leaving Zephyr behind, and for the first time in decades, the skies of Kayreen's home were quiet, but not silent. They were alive again. Weeks later, Zephyr's cities began to rebuild. Kayreen was crowned as leader by her people. But when asked who stood beside her, she did not say husband. She said, heart-bonded. Liam stood proudly, wearing robes of starlight, his mark glowing beside hers. He wasn't just her savior or her partner. He was now a bridge between Earth and the stars, in a quiet ceremony under Zephyr's twin moons. They married not with rings, but with light. Their hands touched, and two galaxies seemed to breathe together. Her people cheered, and Liam, once a lonely mechanic with oil-stained hands, smiled at the woman who changed everything. Kayreen leaned in close. You didn't just invite me in, Liam, she whispered. You gave me a future. And above them, in the endless night, the stars didn't just shine, they watched. Because some stories are too bright to forget, even in the dark.